Whilst you're on the subject of terrible driving in the last couple of videos, I've been sent another one which is actually hosted on Twitter. So I'll link the original tweet in the description below, not least of which because that's one of the references for copyright and I'm using it for criticism and reporting in this video. And in this video, it's a cyclist who was indicating right, obviously with his arm out, although you can't quite see that in the video, but I'll comment on that in a moment. And the driver overtakes the cyclist, pulls in, and then brake checks the cyclist. Not only that, gets out of the vehicle, leaves it in drive and doesn't put the handbrake on. The vehicle starts to roll away and the driver and his passenger have both got out and they're being aggressive towards the cyclist. So I'm sorry if I spoilt all that for you, but I'm going to show you the clip anyway. So that's essentially what happens. There has been some discussion, we'll call it, on Twitter as to whether or not the cyclist was in fact indicating right. Now, it isn't clear from the video clip that I've seen that he was in fact indicating right. Although if I were in court and the cyclist was my client, I would be inviting my client to give evidence as to where he was going, what route he was taking, and obviously at that junction, which direction he was planning on travelling in, and then of course invite the evidence as to whether or not he in fact was indicating right by putting his arm out to the side. For the avoidance of doubt, if he was indicating right by putting his arm out to the side, the vehicle should not have overtaken, because cyclists are supposed to move over to the right-hand side to turn right, and they will indicate right when they're going to turn right. So the vehicle behind should have hung back and waited for the cyclist to approach the junction, complete the manoeuvre, and so on. So by overtaking, if that were the case, the driver is in the wrong. Now, let's say for a moment that it's up for debate as to whether or not the cyclist was in fact indicating right with his arm. Well, the driver's subsequent actions will harm the credibility of any evidence that this driver is planning to give in court. But the point of all this video is that the result of this video is that the police saw fit to only issue a letter as a warning for inconsiderate driving. That's all that happened. Now, brake checking is a relatively serious offence, but we'll come back to that again in a moment. Without further ado, let's watch the clip. Right from the start of the clip, you see the cyclist's arm waving at the vehicle. Then the vehicle pulls in. But then the vehicle slams the brakes on and forces the cyclist to come to a stop. Then the driver gets out.
Don't brake check me and don't overtake when I'm indicating right, please.
And with both the driver and the passenger out of the vehicle, the driver doesn't realise that he hasn't put the handbrake on. It rolls down the road with the door open, almost hitting some of the other cars. Now, there are a number of offences going on here. If the cyclist was turning right, that would have been careless and inconsiderate driving in the first place, but brake checking is at the very least careless driving, if not dangerous driving, and a letter in response to this, I believe, is just simply inadequate. So given that this is not going forward to a prosecution, I've got no qualms about giving you my thoughts about this on social media. In my view, the response from the police was too lenient, especially considering the recent video that I did where the driver moving over to allow an ambulance to go past and went through the red light 1.2 seconds after it turned red, and contrasting that with another video that was also sent to the police where a vehicle went through 15 seconds after the lights turned red, and in this case the driver overtaking the cyclist relatively dangerously if he's indicating right. And even if, for argument's sake, he wasn't indicating right, he still brake checked him afterwards, which is an offence in and of itself. Then the driver got out and allowed the vehicle to start rolling down the road with the door open, and that's an offence in and of itself. So all of this, I believe, in my view, a letter of warning for inconsiderate driving is an inadequate response in comparison to the others that we've been talking about. So as I said, some elements of this are up for debate, some, in my view, are not. And in my view, with all respect to the police and the very difficult job that they do, this incident should have attracted a more serious response. But as I say, that's just my view. You are welcome to disagree with me. You are welcome to leave me whatever you think in the comments below. That's why this is a democracy. That's why we discuss these things. And ultimately, the police made the choice, in this case, just to send out a warning letter. But as I understand it, a record of that warning letter remains on file somewhere. So if something else happens, they shouldn't get the benefit of another warning letter, and then they should in fact be prosecuted for what happened. So as I say, leave me your thoughts in the comments below. Please do remember to like this video and subscribe, and thank you all for watching.